What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Mumbai Gudafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles and Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host.
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Iconic, Rockfin, Odyssey, or Library, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thank you very much. We certainly do appreciate all of your support. If you want to connect with the show, you can go to the website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You've got access to me. You can send me a message if you want. And the merchandise store. Got to check out the merchandise store. If you're looking for items to trigger people at work to get you put on a domestic terrorist list, this would be the place to go for all of your items that would do that. So I certainly encourage you to do that. Just check it out. There's all kinds of crazy stuff there. T-shirts, sweatshirts, pillows, you name it. Stickers. Our sticker game is pretty strong, I must say. And thank you, of course, to our sponsors, My Patriot Supply. Man, I'm telling you, you got to get your shit together and get prepared because the World Economic Forum is running Cyber Polygon. They're simulating a cyber attack on the power grid and things like that. Yeah, last time the World Economic Forum simulated something, it was Event 201, and then we got COVID 6 months later. So my suggestion is I would take this as a threat from them. I would get yourself organized and prepared wherever you can. If you choose to do so, you can go to preparewithmacroaggressions.com. They've got all kinds of things, 4-week supply of food, 3-month supply of food. They have free shipping within the United States. I encourage people to just go to the website, take a look and see if it's a fit for you. If not, if you want to do it in a different way, you want to go to the grocery store and just add a couple extra cans of food or some bags of rice and beans and things like that, please do it. This is one of those situations where you want to be early, you don't want to be late, and so we've got some options for you. Preparewithmacroaggressions.com is a good solution for that, and also for fighting the zombie apocalypse, which we know is coming because every day I look outside and I see more and more zombie people double masking in their cars. You better get your physical health in order. So I would suggest you take a look at our friends over at Chemical Free Body and see what they've got cooking for you. Tim James put me through the Total Energy and Detox Bundle, which is 2 cans of Green 85, a packet of gut detox, toxin detox, probiotics, and ultra enzymes. And he put me on this 90-day program. I felt great. it leaned me out in a serious way, so much so that I made a video for Tim, and it's up there. You can go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro and see what it did to me. I mean, I can't lie about it. I mean, I guess I could lie about it, but I'm not going to. The video shows I have shorts that don't fit me anymore because of this program. And so I would seriously suggest people take a look. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro. Just check it out. See if it's a fit for you. If it is, pull the trigger. If it's not, well, no harm there. I'm just providing options. We're giving you options, people. So what you do with it, that's up to you. So, well, I'll tell you, when it comes to research, we've got, I have been a fan of Tinfoil Hat, obviously, for many, many years. I've been on the show a couple of times. Sam Tripoli and I do the Union of the Unwanted together twice a month. And from watching and listening to Tinfoil Hat, you would always hear of the Ronin Ruins, the group of people that are heavily researching and helping out with Tinfoil Hat Show. And we happen to have one of those participants. We have Frantic Missy here to give us the lowdown on a bunch of unusual topics. What's going on, Missy? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I was at the water park and now I'm on video. So
yeah. Well, hey, listen, enjoy it while you can, because if these maniacs at the World Economic Forum have their way, they're going to try and shut off all the power. We know that they've been running simulations in the lead up to the election of simulating a cyber attack on the power grid, a cyber attack on the water treatment facility. So you may not get another chance to go to the water park if they attack the water treatment facilities and make those things back up and overflow. So these maniacs are just crazy enough to pull all of that shit. And we're happy to have you straight from the water park or straight from church. Doesn't make a bit of difference to us. We're fixing to
either
get
way.
weird.
I'm burning right now.
Yeah. Well, we are. When we were talking to set up this show, we're kind of figuring out what topics we want to get into. And one of them is something that I haven't talked about on Macroaggressions, but Sean Atwood over in the UK had me on one time with...
I love him.
He's great. He's great. He had me on a show with Sonia Poulton, and she has done a ton of research into the Madeleine McCann case that started in the UK and wound up in Portugal. And there's a whole lot of sketchy business around that. And it's one of
just look how much money they spent.
What's that?
Look how much money they spent. They spent a ton of money on this one little girl.
Yeah. And it's a disturbing case with a bunch of question marks. And I always looked at it, I didn't do a super deep dive. You did, which is the reason why you're on here. But I looked at it and I thought, I see duping delight when these people are being interviewed on camera. I see like smiles and laughters that's very unnatural. I see things about it. It doesn't prove anything necessarily, but it makes me very suspicious that maybe these parents knew a little bit something more than they were either wanted to say or were allowed to say. And I watched the videos and they got a disproportionate amount of media coverage. I mean, look, every person that goes through a situation like this where their child disappears, you pray for that sort of media coverage. I mean, you would hope that would happen.
Just look at how many little girls go missing in Washington, D.C. Now, nobody talks about these little girls because I hate to say it, but it's because they're black.
Yeah.
No one covers it, but Madeleine McCann disappears and they spend billions of dollars trying to find her. I mean, when I go to a mattress store, all I can think the entire time is this has to be a money laundering thing. Because how often do you buy a mattress, right? And I think there are cases like Madeleine McCann where they're laundering money. The homeless crisis in LA where they're laundering money. How can you spend $1 billion and nothing happens, LA?
Yeah.
It's because the money's not going to the people it's supposed to go to. Bono, U2, he's got a charity where only 1% actually goes to the children he's trying to feed in Africa. It's insane what these people will do because they don't have a soul. They are empathyless. They don't care about these children, and they never waste a good opportunity to steal money from someone else. And that's exactly what I think happened with Madeleine McCann. And then there's other stuff. I'm going to break something on your show that no one else has been aware of.
Please.
Did you know that Madeleine McCann was blind in her right eye due to a birth defect called coloboma? Okay. Now, another little girl disappeared in 2009. Madeleine McCann was 2005. Brittany Drexel disappeared in 2009. Also blind in her right eye. I want you to just run the numbers on that.
Whoa.
2 major cases of 2 girls that went missing that had massive manhunts and massive amounts of money put in their situation in their cases. And both of them happened to be born with a disease that makes them blind in their right eye. It's not just that. If you look at Madeleine McCann's eye, it's in the shape of a key. When you look at Brittany Drexel's pictures, which I can show you, like blown up pictures of it, it's a cross. Do you know who else is blind in their right eye? Was born blind in their right eye? Well, there's George Soros. That's one of them.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
what's going on here then with this?
Well,
is this some sort of birth defect gene that they're looking for? Is this
Brittany had
negative
PBHD.
blood? I mean, what are we talking about here?
I mean, I would love to know, but again, the HIPAA laws, unless it's a vaccine passport, they're not going to say anything.
Right.
But with Madeleine McCann, this disease is like one of the things that they were putting all over everywhere. With Brittany Drexel, it was like only mentioned in like a couple of articles and a couple of podcasts. And she actually had surgery on her eye. So when you look at the pictures of her up close, but I mean, just crunch the numbers on that. I'm not a math person, but I can tell you that doesn't add up. 2 girls, less than 5 years, major cases. Also, they have other things in common. Did you know that with Madeleine McCann, she had clothing that was left at the airport, right? That wasn't hers, but they thought was hers. Brittany Drexel had a pair of sunglasses that was left at the location of another location where 2 people reported to have had anonymous report reported in 2000. They were looking for a little girl and a mother that disappeared in less than 8, I think it was 11 months apart. The daughter and the mother disappeared in 1987 and 1988 on the same road at the same location, like 11 months apart. And they had an anonymous report that linked these 2 missing, the mother and the daughter, to the location where Brittany Drexel's sunglasses were found. So, yeah, almost the same exact. You look at like the dot on the map, it's absolutely insane. These things, there are no coincidences. They do the same things over and over again. These people, these darknesses, these dark people, they are not creative. They can't think outside the box. That's why all the movies in Hollywood stink. That's why they're remaking Ghostbusters with women. Okay. Because they cannot think outside the box. They can't create. And they will tell you exactly what they're going to do before they do it. They use predictive programming. It's part of like casting a spell, but it's also like part of, if we don't do anything about it, then it's on us.
Yeah.
That's how they think.
Yeah.
And I don't use the word elite. I use the word lizard people because they're not better than me. And they are operating in a reptilian brain that has 0 empathy. They're not elite.
It's true.
They're not better than us.
We see a lot of this coming out of the royal family, of course, which, to the term royal family, I'm
not bowing to anybody.
It's
like
so
you can sit there and wait, because I will never, ever bow to another human being. There's one being I bow to, and that's God. They can go. They can go. I was trying not to curse. I don't know if I'm allowed to or not.
You're allowed
but
to.
They can go do that. They can go eat a bag of dicks, because I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to go bow to another human being. What makes them think that they're better than us? Because their ancestry had money.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Okay.
So I was in London a couple years ago. I was doing a bunch of things, but one of the things I was doing was the touristy thing where you go to the Tower of London and you do all, you go through and you see all this. You go through the city of London, not to be confused with London itself, but the banking haven, the 1 square mile city of London. And once you get into that area, you start to see that the architecture and the statues and everything changes. It's very
black cubes.
It's very lots of dragon symbology, lots of lizard symbology. In the Tower of London, they had this really cool like an armor, coat of armor, and on the top of it was, you would expect some like, I don't know, some fierce animal, but on the top of this helmet was a lizard. Like a chromed lizard that was on there. I thought, well, how is this?
Oh, I believe it.
thing that
I have seen so much at this point in my life that you couldn't tell me anything that I'd be like, that's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
I call them, they're puzzle pieces. If something doesn't make sense, I put it to the side because eventually I'll get around somewhere where something will make sense. It will fit something.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Chemtrails. For the longest time, I thought they were garbage. And then I was like, oh, maybe they're trying to return us to the antediluvian climate. Duh. Maybe that makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're in London. We're looking at all of the symbology, all the lizard stuff. And of course, my little conspiratorial mind is going, oh, these lizard people are just rubbing it in our face. And I remember I remember 97 when Princess Diana died, thinking, oh man, this is just this was before I was into all this stuff. I mean, I didn't know what I didn't know, but there was something about her death that made me feel like it wasn't as organic as it was made to seem. And the media chasing her and all of that, I thought, well, the media chases them all the time. And why is this? This doesn't make much sense. They
told us. She told us that they were going to kill her.
She said they're going to kill me in a car accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it happened like that. What's your take on the Princess Diana situation?
Well, I definitely think they killed her. And one of the main reasons that I think that they killed her is because, being the crazy person that I am, I can't just read a news article anymore. I have to read between the headlines. And I came across an article about a guy named James Francis Alexander, who was 31 years old. He died of multiple bullet wounds. More than 20 bullets were found in his body. He had silencer burns on his body from where the bullets were. He was in this Irish hotel where he was trying to hide out from MI5, where Diddy Step was stalking him. And he was shot 20 times and no one knew he was dead for over 2 days. Kind of weird, huh? You'd think that someone would have heard something, right? But they didn't. Well, it turns out this guy, James Francis Alexander, in 2014, he wrote a book called The Real Prince Harry, The Truth Behind the Royal Lies. And it sold out 50,000 copies almost immediately, gone. Okay. Wow. Now, there's more to it. The pressure was put on the publishing companies not to reprint that book. Okay. Because James Francis Alexander, who's 31, he claimed that he was the real Prince Harry and that they had switched him and with his cousin, who was a duke, and put him in that position because he would not shut up about the fact that they'd killed Princess Diana. So they removed him from his position. Now, that would just be a tabloid, garbage article that you see in the Weird Weekly News or Extra, like that. One of those. Right? That would just be a blip, right? Yeah. Except for the fact that you look at now, Prince Harry went to Afghanistan against the Queen's wishes. Prince Harry married. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but the royal family definitely, these snobby douches, they have a problem with it that he married a half black woman. Yep. Okay. The fact that he's rescinded his title. This is the same guy that doesn't believe in the First Amendment. For him to drop his title.
Yeah.
That doesn't make, that being British people, they'd be like, oh my God, I would never, no one could understand why he did it. Not just him, but also his son. And now his daughter, little Elizabeth, little Diana. They're not calling her Diana. They're calling her Elizabeth, by the way, which is really kind of messed up because she was named after his mother. You would think that they would call the child after the mother, right? That died. No, they're calling her the nickname of the Queen. Kind of weird. So for them to give up that title and then move to Canada, okay, and then move to LA, right? That is crazy stuff when you are a royal. You don't do that. They've been taught since day one that that's their duty. Okay. And especially after what happened with Prince David, King David, whatever you want to call him, the guy that married and then got and denounced the throne in the 1930s over what was that evil conniving lady's name? Married 2 times. What's her name? I can't remember off the top of my head. But her, after he gave up the throne to Queen Elizabeth's father, King George, when he did that, he wasn't even allowed to leave France for 20 something years. Wow. Wasn't allowed to leave France. He wasn't invited to anything. When people died, he couldn't come to the funeral. It was a big old mess. So for Prince Harry to know how upsetting it was in the family, and then still give up his title, that wouldn't make any sense, except for the fact that maybe he isn't really Prince Harry and he had to give up the title.
Ooh, yeah, this is interesting because I've seen the pictures of James Hewitt, who looks a whole lot like him. I've heard rumors that Prince Harry's dad is actually King Juan Carlos.
Maybe they planted those stories to
of
explain the fact that
Spain.
he doesn't look like any of the rest of them.
Yeah, he does not look anything like the
doesn't.
rest of them. I mean, he's a ginger. He's a tall ginger. He doesn't look like Prince Charles, who looks like a rat. You know.
Well, he's inbred. So, I mean, the Queen married her second cousin, or as I call it, her Nazi husband.
Yes. Let's talk about her Nazi husband, this Prince Philip scumbag who.
Well, Prince Philip's mother was Queen Alice. I don't have my notes on this. I'm just going off, my memory. Queen Alice, that was his mother. Alice she struggled with mental illness. They were the royalty in Greece at the time, the king and queen of Greece, and basically, like after World War I. Alice started going off the deep end, and she ended up actually giving away everything and becoming a nun and saving like countless lives during World War II in Greece. She was a really interesting lady. She really was. She was a lady, and she married into that family. And then Prince Philip's sister, she was married to a high-ranking Nazi, and I think they had like 4 kids. Anyways, they got in a plane crash, and they all died. And it was literally going back, I think, from dropping Prince Philip off at the school that he went to that tortured him, because that's what they do. Paris Hilton, she'll tell you, they send you to a school, they torture you and torture all the humanity out of you and possibly set up shop with something else in your body. Who knows? And he felt guilty about that the rest of his life, but he went to the funeral and it was a full regaled Nazi funeral. And there's plenty of pictures of Prince Philip marching and walking through this Nazi funeral. Now, the Nazi stuff wouldn't be so weird, except for the fact you got the George Soros Nazi stuff. You got the Operation Paperclip Nazi stuff. You got, the B-2 plane, right? Looks just like a Nazi plane. I just covered this last night, or the night before last, in a conversation about the Operation Paperclip on stereo with a guy named Patrick that is also from the ruins. And we went over like how you think that the war ended in like 1945.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, let's not even talk about crazy conspiracy theory stuff in Antarctica and all. They're involved in everything from Bear aspirin to Mercedes to our planes that we're flying to Lockheed Martin to these vaccines that are coming out.
Yep.
They're connected to all of that. The Nazis never went down. There are entire towns in Argentina that do not speak Spanish. They speak German.
Bariloche. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
not over.
There's Jim Mars made a good point that he wrote a book called The Fourth Reich. He was talking about how the Nazis Germany lost the war, but the Nazis didn't. The Nazis were relocated. Some of them
because it was a religion.
Yeah,
it wasn't a movement. It wasn't a political party. It was a religion. Yeah, and we're seeing things like that today. That with the far left, super progressive like party, we're seeing now the same kind of deal where it definitely has become a religion. It is not a political party line. It's a religion. And these people follow it blindly, even if it doesn't make any sense, even if it's not logical, even if it goes against, they say racist things and then claim to not be racist. And guess what they call everybody else? They call them what word?
Nazis.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it's all connected. And this royal family, everyone forgets this, but the royal family, they are not the House of Windsor.
No.
They're the House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. And they changed their name during World War I, after the sinking of the Lusitania, which, by the way, fun fact, Winston Churchill knew that U-boat was there. They told the boat to turn, the Lusitania to turn into the path of that U-boat. Do you know how fast the Lusitania sank?
Like 15 minutes or something.
18 minutes. 18 minutes.
Yeah.
18 minutes.
Crazy.
And they were like, well, we never knew. I'm like, they knew. They did it on purpose. And this family, after that, they changed their name and they used the Lusitania. That was in the propaganda for everything for World War I. Because at the end of the day, they had no real reason to start that war. Ask anybody on the street, go, hey, what was World War I about? And they'll say, Franz Ferdinand. I'm like, no, that's what started it. What was it about? And no one can tell you. Right. Because again, it's that husband stuff. They were all cousins fighting Russia, Germany, and Britain. They also all descended from Germans. They're all Germans. Just like the House of Rothschild, they're all Germans. So for me to bow to a queen, even if I lived in Britain, I love how they're like, oh, we're British. It's part of being British. I'm like, no, it's part of being German. You got it completely wrong. Even Queen Victoria, the Habsburgs, they got their bloodline in there too. I was like, you're worshiping a whole bunch of Germans, and then you think that's what defines you as British? No.
Yeah, it's a total. They're all in disguise. It's been like that for a long time. I think it's
lizard people.
The things that always kick off these wars, you've got the SS Maine, you've got the Lusitania, you've got Pearl Harbor with the sinking of those boats, you've got the kicking off through Admiral Morrison in Vietnam, of the ship being attacked.
Jim Morrison's daddy.
Jim Morrison's dad, yeah, exactly. So it always there always has to be a trigger event, more than likely.
They love sinking ships. They love sinking ships. And there's some crazy stuff that I can go into on that if you want me to. I mean, because the Britannia and the Lusitania and the Titanic and the Olympic, like all these stuff happened. Like, for example, there's a woman that was on the Titanic that also survived the sinking of the Britannic. The captain of the Titanic was the same captain that wrecked the Olympic a year beforehand, causing like millions of dollars in damages. Mm-hmm. And then they let him do the main ship drive. Like he got to drive the boat, right? Like even Captain Ron would be like, nah, I don't think, bro. Like, nah, not a good idea. That's the guy that's the guy they chose to drive their brand new, like $1 million boat. That's the guy. JP Morgan owned the White Star Line. Okay. Yeah. The way that they came after people in the hospital and gave them $25. That's all they got for all of their belongings gone and surviving this atrocity. They were bullied while they were like in the hospital to sign papers and get paid $25. Anybody who worked for them had to sign papers saying they would never speak about it ever again. And all those same employees that survived the sinking of the Titanic went back to work for the White Star Line.
Wow. That's there's definitely some fuckery involved in the sinking of the Titanic.
So much. It's always boats. I don't know what it is about boats. And then that Ghislaine Maxwell's got her submarine license.
Yes.
Yep.
She loves
There's something about boats.
She's a philanthropist who cares about clean water.
She holds her pinky up when she kidnaps children, right?
Right.
She's a lady.
Yeah, it always reminds me of this scene in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie's trying to explain to this girl, he's trying to lie to her, tell her that he's got this really cool job, and his buddy's like, tell her that you're a philanthropist, and he's like, okay, I'm a philanthropist. He can't say he's dumb because he can't really. So she goes, what do you do? And he says, I'm a full-on rapist, and it reminds me of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, where you go, well, what do you do? It's like, I'm a philanthropist. I'm like, don't you mean a full-on rapist? Because they hide behind these titles and use that as sort of a disguise to make themselves appear beyond reproach. But in actuality, they're doing all these
horrible things,
horrible things. And it's not, and we've seen like
the Queen has 4 children. Okay. 2 out of 4 of her children. That's 50% of her princes and princesses, right? Anne, Edward, Charles, and Andrew. 50% of them are BFFs with prolific, hardcore, worst of the worst pedophiles. Yes. Jimmy Savile, who was invited to Christmas at Balmoral more than once. The head of the church, the head of MI5, the head of MI6, she didn't know. And then there's Prince Andrew with all his nonsense. And that's just been going back since Sarah Ferguson. Like, we knew that he's had a problem with girls for a long time. He's always been a creeper. And for her to say, I don't know what's worse, for her to do nothing or for her to be a part of it, because it's the same thing.
Yeah. And
either she knew and did nothing, or she knew because she was part of it. Yeah. Either way, that bitch ain't getting away clean. Like this is not acceptable. 2 out of 4 children, 50%. 50% of her kids were the best friends of the worst pedophiles ever.
Yeah, it's
Jeffrey Epstein and Jimmy Savile.
It's not an accident. They partner up with these people that are procurers of children for the rich and powerful. They need each other. So a guy like Epstein is valuable to someone like Prince Andrew, and a guy like Savile is extremely beneficial to like Lord Mountbatten.
He didn't even hide it.
Yeah.
He didn't even everyone knew about it.
No, everybody knew.
Johnny. Yeah, you've heard of the Sex Pistols. I was a huge fan. As a punk rock girl, like really into them. Them and the Misfits.
1977, he's on video talking about that.
Yes, he was, and that's the reason why BBC wouldn't air his stuff anymore, because he was talking about Jimmy Savile, not because he was talking about the royal family's connections to Jimmy Savile, just because he was talking about Jimmy Savile.
Well,
now what does that tell you?
Also, the Smiths song "Panic," "Panic on the streets of London," "Panic on the streets of Birmingham." Yeah. On the lead side streets that you slip down in provincial towns, you jog around. Hang the DJ, hang the DJ, hang the DJ. That's about Savile.
Yeah,
because he lived in Leeds. He was a big jogger. He would do his big charity things. Jim will fix it. These races. He'd run for charity, run for kids, and all that stuff. He was friends with.
When he wasn't throwing him off the back of a boat, I'm sure he was doing a lot of good work for him. Great guy, exactly. Jimmy will fix it.
Yeah, Jim will fix it all right. Depends on what you want fixed. He'll fix it so that he doesn't ever go to prison. That's for sure. While he's living in Broadmoor, he's got himself a little studio apartment in Broadmoor where he can have his way with mentally retarded children and things like that. Because these are serial killers, psychopathic maniacs disguised as OBO, just wearing all of the royal outfits, and Jimmy's invited to. Hell, he was brought in to counsel Prince Charles and Diana when they were going through a real tough time in their marriage.
I know.
Was Satan not available for that?
Head of MI5, head of MI6. She didn't know. She didn't know.
Yeah. This is so.
And this leads us back to Madeleine McCann, because you know who lived right around the corner from where Madeleine McCann was taken from, right? Let's not even talk about Tony and John Podesta's, like in the pictures that look exactly like them, that are the sketches, which anybody can look that up. DuckDuckGo it. Madeleine McCann police sketches. Don't even look up pictures of them until after you look at that. Like it'll blow your mind. And by the way, there are flight logs. I have them on an old computer, which is unplugged and hidden in my house. I have flight logs for that can prove they were there.
Whoa.
Anyways, moving on. The person they were visiting was a guy named Clement Freud, the grandson of Sigmund Freud, who lived 2 blocks away from where Madeleine McCann disappeared. Madeleine McCann's mother had tea with Clement Freud. Well, not much long after, turns out Clement Freud got extradited to Britain for molesting kids. Guess who died and never served a day? Clement Freud.
Yep. There's a darkness about these people. Which
is why it's weird. Why would Prince Harry give up his title? It lets you get away with murder, literally. So that's weird, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he knows. He has to know. They all know.
Yeah, it's there's part of me that doesn't blame Prince Harry for wanting to get as far away from this family as possible, because he knows what happens. I mean, hell, if we know what happens, he certainly knows what happens there to people that get on the wrong side of the royal family. They wind up blowing up in plane crashes, or
they do it to their own.
Getting thrown off of boats, or getting killed under mysterious circumstances. Yeah, they will.
Just watch The Crown. In The Crown, there's this whole scene, like several episode arc, about how Prince Philip got sent to this school, right, that was torturous to children in Scotland. It was a nightmare. And then he sent his own children there, even though he knew it was a nightmare. And you got like, it was so upsetting, like watching that show. But you have to, because you have to know what they're going to, like, you have to check before they wreck. You have to know like what's going on. You have to watch this stuff sometimes, even if it makes you sick and they're lying about everything they say. And they're romanticizing these monsters. But I had to watch it. And like, there's this scene where like little Prince Charles is like being visited by also creepy pedophile Mountbatten.
Yeah. Big time.
Also creepy pedophile. And like, there's this scene where I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm like, do they not realize how much they're giving away in this scene? Like, they are telling us exactly what's going on with Mountbatten and Prince Charles.
Yeah.
Because Prince Charles definitely got molested by Lord Mountbatten. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
That happened.
That was known. I mean, Mountbatten was a
again, prolific pedophile.
A blatant pedophile. And then you hear these stories that come out of Canada about the children from the
my heart hurts. It
the
makes
native
my heart
children
hurt.
that go disappearing. They're disappear.
791, I think, is the current number.
Yeah, but there's also a story of how the Queen and Philip visited them in the 60s.
The kids go disappearing left and right. Yep.
A group of 10 kids just disappeared from that. They were taken away. Like, hey,
it was 20, but yeah.
Oh, was it 20? Yeah.
Yeah, it was 20.
Never to be seen, heard from again. Yeah, this is
I had a friend ask me. She goes, "How many kids do you think it is?" And I'm like, "We'll never know because the Catholic Church didn't keep records on it, and the Commonwealth of Canada, again under the Queen, didn't keep any records on it. We will never know." That's just one.
Yeah,
that's just one of these like crazy graveyards where they just literally threw children in a hole, didn't give them a burial, didn't give them religious rights, because they didn't think of them as people. They were garbage children. Yeah. And that's why they created the education system, is because they wanted to educate garbage children so they could have good little factory workers. Mm-hmm. Like the abuse of children, for the longest time in society, we didn't even like recognize children as being children. That's a relatively new concept of a childhood. That's a new thing. And honestly, I think it comes from the way they were treated by these factory workers, like people that ran the factories. I think it was the way they were treated as being serfs under these lords. I think it was the way they were treated as, being not a whole person because they're like a tiny person and because they were easily disenfranchised. And, the Bible says Jesus loves the little children. Remember the song, Jesus loves the little children? Yeah. Well, what's the best way to piss off a deity other than to go after the thing he loves the most?
Yeah. That's
why they do
it. It's hard for people that are new to this information to kind of wrap their heads around. For one, because it's so dark, you don't really even want to go there. And I can understand
but you have to.
That. Yeah,
you have to.
You have to. If you want to get the full picture of it, you have to see how the royals and the high ranking people at the Vatican, how they view children and how they what their relationship is with children, and it's very dark, and that's not conspiracy theory. That's
How long have you been doing this, Charlie? How long have you been doing this? How long have you been doing this?
I've been writing books since 2017, but I've been into this stuff since maybe 2004.
How many times have you gotten black-pilled and come out the other side of it? Because for me, it's been at least 3 times.
Well, yeah, it's there's certain topics that you get on, and it just makes you feel like there's no hope. And
but the
disappearance of kids is one of them.
They're victims, though. The only thing worse than being a victim is being a victim that no one knows about.
Ooh,
that's where the ghosts come from. Like that's the stuff we have. It's our responsibility as human beings to give these people a name, to give them a gravestone, to give them some sort of dignity. And the only way we can give them dignity is by bringing to light what happened to them. It's not even about, putting people in jail, because we know that nothing's gonna happen. I mean, like we've seen how many Congress meetings, like with, creepy water drinking Zuckerberg, nothing happens, right? These people they literally get away with murder. And and in their countries, there's nothing we can do as Americans. There's nothing I can do to bring the Queen to justice ever. But I can talk about what happened, and I can talk about the victims, and I can give them a name, and I can give them the respect that's earned from the loss of their life. Because when no one knows that you exist, that's worse than whatever happened to them in their life.
It's rough.
It's our job as human. Even if you would give an apple to a stranger, you should find this stuff out. And you've got to learn how to make peace with yourself. It's called from dark to light for a reason. Because when you drag things into the light, people have to look at it. And the more people that look at this stuff, the less likely it is that someone's going to get hurt in the future, because they have to be more careful.
Yeah. And we're talking about children that nobody knows about, that are almost forgotten, and the juxtaposition for that to the exact opposite of that, where you have high profile celebrity deaths that are all kind of connected in a strange way, the ribbon around the neck and hanging from doorknobs and things like that. So
scarves and belts.
Scarves, yes. What do we make of that? I mean, I go straight to there's a pattern forming here. There's somebody who's trying to silence these people. None of this stuff is accidental. So we've got nameless people that's a whole different situation. And then we've got extremely famous people. And I feel like that in some ways is being rubbed right in our face, because when you see Chris Cornell and
Chester Bennington, Michael Hutchinson, David Carradine, Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, Robin Williams, Brittany Murphy, her husband, whatever his name is, Avicii. Avicii definitely was killed. He at the time was doing, of course, working on investigating sex trafficking. He just donated $1 million to the Feed the Children organization run by Laura Lauren Bush. His dad, who also was a famous singer, and his mother, who was this famous actress model, right? His dad did a song with a band called Dead by April, less than a year, and it's an apology song. And he died April 20th. Again, April 20th. That date keeps coming up. What's 420 mean to you? For me, it's Hitler's birthday. So I'm not celebrating that. But Avicii died on 420. Like they can't create. They do the same things over and over and over again. Now, they never thought that we'd find those children in Canada.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They never thought that Hillary Clinton could lose an election.
Yeah.
They cannot see the future. They cannot. All they can do is see the past, and they cannot come up with new things. They just keep doing the same thing. They tell you what they're going to do before they do it. Predictive programming. So that's why we have to share as much knowledge as possible and get in front of it, you know? And this royal family garbage, dude, and these are garbage people. If you had a friend that married their second cousin, would you be like, hey, yeah, we're still friends, I'm cool with that? Or would you be like,
yeah, it's not.
Maybe got to put a little distance between us. But no, we bow to that bitch. We bow to her. That's crazy, right?
Yeah. So what do we make? We know these people love their symbols. It might not matter so much to us as normal non-lizard people, but to them it's a big deal. They're into dates, they're into specific places, they're into ley lines, they're into symbology, they're into all this. So when a bunch of people, a bunch of celebrities,
Hollywood,
happen to be working child trafficking, all wind up strangling themselves with scarves hung from doorknobs. Do we have any sort of idea as to what exactly this means? Clearly, it means we're going to take away your voice in some way, while taking away your life.
And the greatest example of that is after Kate Spade died, her husband, by the way, which is Dave Spade's brother, Andy Spade, when he walked out the house, he was wearing a mask from the Rescuers movie.
Yes.
You remember what the Rescuers about? You tell me the plot. You remember?
Animated. I don't remember what it was about, but I remember it was the animated mice, and he wore
Bianca. And that was played by, what's her name? Zsa Zsa Gabor. And the other one, which is played by, oh God, what's the guy that was in, my brain is just, it's been a day. I've been out in the sun all day. Either way, Bianca and Bernard, the two mice, they go after a little girl that's been stolen by a rich lady to go into something called the Devil's Mouth to go achieve the Devil's Eye diamond. Oh, and they're like, you'll stay down there until you get that diamond for me. And they rescue a little girl who has disappeared that no one misses. When Bianca and Bernard go to the orphanage that she's from, they thought she ran away. Even the cat was like, well, she ran away a while ago. I miss her. I miss Penny. Of course, her name is Penny. Money, always with the money, because a child is worth money to them. The fact that he walked out the house in that mask, that should put everyone on alert, because that's creepy and weird. Not just that, but on top of that, that is very symbolic.
Yes, I saw that.
Kate Spade was doing work in Haiti. She was doing work in Haiti.
Oh, was she?
And she was Yes, she was. That's why she gave up her company. You know, she was also a closet smoker. She would chain smoke. Yeah, secretively. She gave up her companies to be run by her husband because she went to Haiti, and that was right about the time that they had just had the earthquake stuff, and they were trying to outsource the making of her purses or whatever. And she went down there and toured their facilities and didn't like it. And the next thing you know, poof, well, she's no longer in charge of the company. And Now she's a crazy person that's taking pills, that has depression, and chain smokes on the sly.
Whoa.
Does she have
a connection to the
She was there. No, yes. But she went down there. She went to Haiti. She saw what was going on. It freaked her out. She didn't like it. And she was like, we're doing something different. And they said, oh, no, you're not.
Whoa.
And she would not shut her mouth. She'd go to Hollywood parties and meet people and get drunk and run her mouth. They had to shut her up. Red scarf around the neck. How do you hang yourself on a doorknob? Unless you're Aaron Hernandez and you soap yourself up good and proper. I can't imagine how you can hang yourself on a doorknob.
I don't know, but there's a lot of celebrities that wind up doing the same thing and find themselves dead. The Chris Cornell thing was concerning to me because he was like spotted by his security hours earlier. His wife
and child sex trafficking,
despondent, and next thing you know, he's DEAD, and everyone's going, yeah, he's such a promising life, and what is this all about? I guess, and they just go, well, I guess
until you find out he's best friends with Chester Bennington,
right? And that they are working on
to expose child sex trafficking.
Exposing child trafficking, and you go, okay, well, maybe there's something here. Let's talk about Chester Bennington, one of the two lead singers of Linkin Park. He was
molested as a kid and was not quiet about it.
Yeah, he was. Like a lot of people, a lot of musicians go through these, or a lot of artists, have some type of trauma that it cripples them in some aspects of their life and makes them maybe a little bit more, I don't know, it benefits them in some other weird way. You see these guys wind up having amazing talent and yet a destructive and horrible childhood or home life and things like that. So what was the situation with Chester Bennington? Was he was vocal about about being molested, and we know how that goes. You either become somebody that is extremely anti-molestation, or you become an enabler, somebody that continues the cycle. So, what was the situation with him? Was he a good guy, or was he a bad guy?
I think he definitely was a good guy. I think he definitely was a good guy. I think he was a good guy because at the end of the day, like look, they don't just you could be the most talented kid in the world, right? But when you go to audition for Disney, the kids with high profile military parents are the ones that make it at the front of the line. Britney Spears is picked. Justin Timberlake was picked. Jennifer Hudson was picked. They don't just fall out the sky. Like Miley Cyrus, her dad was famous too before her. Picked. These children are picked, and they're picked for a reason. There's plenty of kids that are way more talented that you're never going to see on TV.
Yeah.
And Chester Bennington, he was picked. There's not a lot about his family because, again, and honestly, when it comes to him, there's so much speculation to the truth. It's a very hairy area that I try to be very careful in.
Yeah.
I just know the facts. The facts are no one said that he was going to kill himself. No one said he was depressed at the time. Everyone was shocked that he did that. Everyone knew that he was starting this new project with his buddy, Chris Cornell. Okay. And even Chris Cornell's wife was afraid to speak out about this stuff until 2 years ago. And then finally she was like, okay, we need to talk about this. And they also knew other people that were put in that situation and they've been threatened before. And Chester Bennington stood up and he goes, we've got to do something. This can't happen to kids. I'm going to be the person who makes a difference. And before he ever got a chance to do a thing, it's over. And I think that hanging from the doorknob thing, it is a symbol. And they do it over and over again. And they do it. It's so funny how every single one of them either has a big mouth, right?
Yep.
Or a connection to someone that's bad guys, like, Clinton Berger family, or to child sex trafficking, or to someone who is directly related to child sex trafficking, which is what Chris Cornell's situation was. Nobody saw that coming. Everyone was shocked by that. Also, by the way, if you follow Courtney Love anywhere, everyone dies. Everyone dies. They were Sid and Nancy in Britain. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She was there. Remember she was in the movie Sid and Nancy?
No.
Yeah.
That I know she's got a dark history. I know her family is a
the Merry Pranksters.
They have some heavy ties. I know that There's big questions about Kurt Cobain's suicide. There's the documentary Soaked in Bleach. There's a lot of people talking about what was actually going on there. So what do we think happened with Kurt Cobain? I remember that.
Well, first of all, do you know who introduced them? Do you know how she met Kurt Cobain?
Yeah, was it
Billy Corgan introduced
Billy
them.
Corgan, yeah, from Smashing Pumpkins. They had dated before, and didn't Billy? Yeah.
And Billy Corgan wrote all of her songs.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. Listen to him again. If you listen to Malibu, right? Or you listen to Celebrity Skin, it sounds like a Smashing Pumpkins song because it is. Huh. Yeah. Billy Corgan wrote all those.
Interesting.
Yeah. Any of her hits, Billy Corgan wrote. Also, they never had a prenup. Did you know that? And the reason why is because she thought she was going to be more famous than him.
Really?
Did you know that? Yeah. She wrote it down in a notebook, by the way. They got proof of that. Like, she wrote that down. Also, she wrote down, like, make sure that you get into a mental hospital, like, when he died. Like, she's got, like, all these she keeps a creepy journal and, like, tries and writes stuff over and over again to, like, try and make it happen. Because, witchcraft, who would expect it? I mean, other than Beyonce. Like, yeah, witchcraft. Like, that's what she does. And, like, she was in and out of mental institutions as a child. Like, when she was 13, like, her parents were scared of her. That's how, like, off. She was off. And I guarantee you she was a victim too. She was probably, I guarantee you she's a victim of SRA. Because for her to, like, chase the darkness like she did, that was, like, probably the only way she felt like she had any power. Because when you get thrown in a mental institution as a child, like, that'll really screw you up.
Yeah.
And even if you weren't screwed up before, it'll screw you up after. And there's lots of parents that use mental institutions to, like, just, they don't have to deal with their child, you know? Like,
yeah, you throw in, you combine that with the unhealthy nature of Hollywood, and then you really get a toxic combination.
Sacred Druidic tree, Hollywood. Also, Hollywood, Florida. That's where the hijackers trained for 9/11.
Yes.
Hollywood is right around the corner from Parkland. Yes. Thousand Oaks, Ivy League. Here in South Carolina, the woman that I was telling you about that's connected to the Madeleine McCann situation where those 2 girls disappeared.
Yeah.
Mount Holly. It's all druidic. It goes back. When you start looking at this stuff, I don't even know where to start. Because, like, I could go on for 5 hours about what happened, when it happened, what it's connected to. But y'all just have to do the research for yourself, because at the end of the day, as Sam says, you cannot give truth to those who don't seek it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Courtney Love, that is one thing that I think everyone can actually agree on, that is that bitch was evil. And that what she did, the fact that she owns all of Nirvana's songs. Did you know that? She owns all of them, all the royalties. Right. She gets everything. Dave Grohl gets nothing.
I know that they've been in a battle for a while. My buddy was in a band with Dave Grohl. I know that they had huge problems with each other. That is, obviously, nobody that I've ever heard talk about Courtney Love has anything good to say about her. She's always
did heroin when she was pregnant with her daughter.
Yeah.
They took her daughter away. She was a garbage person. Also, I mean, there's no way. Like, when you look at the Kurt Cobain story, and everyone's looked at this. Like, you look at the whole thing with her hiring someone to murder him. You look at his credit card usage. You look at how he had a long gun shotgun that his friend let him borrow, and there's no way he could have shot himself unless the gun was the barrel was, I think it was 1.5 feet above his head. It'd have to be at that trajectory. Like, they sent the coroner that went down to the site to go research his death. That was a newbie coroner. The guy had been there for like 6 months. He's brand new. That's the guy you send for the high profile celebrity death, is the guy that just showed up. Right?
Well, you either send him or you send the seasoned, experienced guy to go check Epstein, who was involved in all of the cover-up guy.
Captain Jumpsuit. I don't know what he was doing with 40 jumpsuits in his prison cell. I mean, I don't know why he couldn't have hung himself with whatever cable wire that was that's hanging in the picture. You could see it plugged in the wall. I'm like, why didn't he hang himself with that? Why didn't he tear up some jumpsuits? I mean, granted, he had enough. He had like 40-something jumpsuits in his cell. Did you see that? You ever seen the pictures of that?
I saw that he had a bunch of jumpsuits. I didn't know how many he had, but
like 40.
That is not normal. And
there was a wire. There was like a cord in the room. I'm like, well, why? Like Anthony Bourdain, like, why would you want to commit heroin to kill yourself when you could just hang yourself on a doorknob? Right? That's taking the easy way out. I want this to be difficult.
Right. Yeah. It seems like they want to send a message. We now have the passing of John McAfee in Spain, where
he's a friend of mine, right?
What's that?
He's a friend of mine, right?
No,
Has been since 1999. Yeah, we were really close, actually.
Wow.
The last time I talked to him was 2 months ago. He called me and asked me if I could find someone to do an interview with him.
Whoa.
And he called me, and like he was like, "This is my last he's like, I'm going to run out of minutes on this. It's my international card." And he's like, "I need to find someone to tell them what's going on in here." He goes, "I haven't seen a judge yet. I've been here since October 6th. I haven't seen a judge. I need, that was March. I'm sorry. So it was April, May, like 3 months ago, something like that. But I talked to him back in March, and he was like, "I need to find someone to interview with me." And I was like, "I'll find you somebody." I was like, "I'll see what I can do." And I reached out to a couple people, and then he's supposed to call me back and he didn't. So I couldn't confirm anything. And that was the last time that I spoke to him. Did you know that John McAfee went around the world rescuing sex traffic victims?
No, I didn't know.
His wife Janice was a streetwalker he met in New Orleans, and he rescued her off the street.
No way.
Yeah. And that house in Belize where they talk all this trash about him.
Yep.
All those girls, they're like, "There's 17-year-old girls, blah, blah, blah." Well, those are all women that he picked up and paid off their pimps in Thailand and in Malaysia, and brought them back to Belize to give them a place to live far away from anybody that could hurt them. And he's paying for their food and putting them up. And I don't know if anything else happened. I never asked that question because I don't disrespect somebody who saves someone's life. I don't ask questions.
Right.
He did enough. The way that these girls are being treated like garbage people in the streets of Thailand, starving and being beaten every night. And he's like, "Hey, come with me. I'll give you a place to live.
Wow.
Help you get a job. We'll get you settled." And the way that it all turned on him, the way the media turned on him, he's born one of them, right? His dad also high up military. His father also killed himself.
No, I didn't know that.
John would have never killed himself because his father killed himself.
Right.
And John was staunchly, it set in motion all of the issues that he had in his life. He was extremely disturbed and upset. And he was 15 when his father killed himself, and it haunted him. So he would have never killed himself. He would have never done that. Why would you spend all that time in prison and you had hope that you were going to get a hearing and then just kill yourself?
Right. It didn't make any sense. His Twitter messages were
He's
out.
a good man.
They said, if I wind up getting Epstein, it wasn't me, it wasn't my idea, and things like that. I am not of the belief that he killed himself. I will never believe that.
They tried to kill him in 2006.
Yeah, they
ended up accidentally killing his nephew. They were trying to kill him, though. That's why he moved to Belize in the first place.
Yeah, and then they tried to set him up in Belize.
Yes, they did.
Through some dirtiness there.
And the Belizean government was trying to, I think it's Belizean, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Belizean government. The Belizean government was trying to extort him for millions of dollars. And he's like, I didn't have it.
Yeah.
So he left, and then he went to Guatemala, and they extradited him back to the United States to stand trial. It was also a civil suit, not a legal suit. It was a civil suit over the other person that was in the Arab trekking, whatever it was, the machine that he had, that his nephew wrecked in because he invented this thing. He got extradited back to the United States for a civil trial, which makes no sense because people don't do that. Right. And then he was free to go. And he'd not been living in the United States since 2013, 2014. He ran for president in 2016, ran for president in 2020. I know, he asked me to help him come up with a campaign song. And we did, but then he was like, I'm going to put it on the back burner. He's like, honestly, I don't want to get in the way of anybody that runs against these Hillary Clinton garbage people. He's like, I want that person to win. He didn't openly endorse Trump, who's a libertarian, but he said, I would rather Trump win than these people win. He's like, so I'm backing off because I don't want to split the vote. Also, I think he's Rusty Shackelford. Also, I think that he had information in regards to Julian Assange. You talked about London and about the banking area. I don't think Brexit was about anything other than getting the central banks out.
I just had a conversation with Julian Assange's father and brother yesterday in Denver. I was at the Denver Press Club for
what they've done to him is horrific.
It was. And then I wound up speaking at the Capitol yesterday as well for a Free Assange rally. And
did you see the guy from Pink Floyd? What he said?
I did. Roger Waters is a bad motherfucker, Roger man. Waters. I like him.
Dude, I always liked Pink Floyd, but now I really like him. Like, good for him.
Yeah, for sure. And Roger's been very outspoken about some polarizing topics that will rightly get you killed, being in favor of the release of Julian Assange and being pro BDS. So those are two things that in this environment that we live in are very taboo because they threaten the establishment and they expose, if you're on the side of a guy that exposes war crimes, the powers that be will target you as well. So I would think that Roger Waters is probably in the crosshairs of some of these, and I don't want to put any sort of negativity out into the universe, but I'm just saying that's a guy that should probably
he's seen some things. I'm sure he's seen some stuff.
Careful of his.
I'm sure he ran in the same circles as I mean, it amazes me that Roman Polanski could do what he does to a girl, have his wife and pregnant baby murdered randomly. By the way, Charles Manson never killed anybody. No. FYI, he never stabbed anybody. He never killed anybody. No. Spent his life in prison. His name is synonymous with notorious stuff. Roman Polanski, though,
he did some shit.
He does what he does. Mick Jagger, they passed around 13-year-old girls like they were candy or beer.
Yeah.
And just traded off like groupie girls that were like 13, 14 years old. Nothing ever happens to them, right? Nobody says a thing, right? But Julian Assange may or may not have had some sort of encounter with someone, and then they hold him
right
imprisoned. There are Nazi war criminals from the Nuremberg trials that got less years in prison than Julian Assange has been locked up without even having any sort of paperwork on him.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't file anything until December 2020. Nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing. There were no charges. It's insane.
Yeah. It's frustrating. And talking to his dad about that, and he said, well, we have growing support within the Australian government. I think he said 26. I go, what, the government? Like, you're going to get support
the
there?
Commonwealth? The Commonwealth?
Yeah, he said you would be surprised. He says we have 26 different people that are they're the Australian equivalent of senators or something.
They just did that in Britain too, where they 24 of their MPs put out a statement. I think it was June 6th, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say it was June 6th, where they said like this, you got to do something. We can't.
Yeah.
We can't foot the bill for this, dude. I mean, when in 2014, when Julian Assange put out, he used Bitcoin, like some of the blockchain code, to use as proof of life in a Reddit AMA Ask Me Anything, right? And then there's that whole thing where I think it was 2012, I believe it was. I can't find. I have so many notes. I've got a whole notebook full. So I'm like, I got an index, but I don't know where to find this one because I just write stuff down and I forget to put it back in the index. But Satoshi, right, said, Assange said that Satoshi said in like 2012, I believe it is, not to use Bitcoin because they were struggling at the time to crowdfund for his WikiLeaks project. I don't think Satoshi ever existed. I know that Julian Assange was one of the cypherpunks. Okay. I know that Julian Assange was pretty much the head of that group. I don't think Satoshi ever existed. We got like what? One picture of a guy in a wheelchair.
That's
why he's not dead. That's why he's alive in prison. That's why they won't kill him, because he's got the blockchain for the Bitcoin, and the central banks need him alive. I think John McAfee and I think Kim.com and I think some other people had some pieces of that code that he used as some sort of dead man switch to keep him alive. That's why he used Bitcoin blockchain as proof of life.
I was talking to Steve Poikonen about that yesterday. He's the guy who he hosts Slow News Day. He's a friend of mine. He's been on Union of the Unwanted a bunch with us, and he put together this Denver protest, the Assange protest. And so I was with him, and I was saying, I wonder what sort of dead man switch Assange has, because we were just talking about McAfee, and we know McAfee was talking about it. He's got 30 terabytes of information that if he goes, it's getting released. So
but guess what just happened too?
Right.
That leak. Remember Remember the $5 million that shut down the country for several days? Remember that? Yeah. I want you to just to think. This is the Colonial Pipeline. How much money do they make, like profit, in a year?
A lot.
Okay. How much is $5 million?
Nothing.
Nothing. Then they got their money back. Magic. Oh, it's because the FBI hacked the blockchain.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
They took down someone who knew something, and that's why McAfee's something happened. They got someone, they took someone out, they returned the money. I'm like, oh, $5 million. That's what they give to home. They're like, please just take my change. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. They shut down, they paid the ransom the same day under the orders of the FBI, right? But they still had everything shut down until the 12th, right? Right?
Yeah.
That was what, 5-6 days? Right? That makes sense.
It was a little less than a week, but long enough that it freaked everybody out and sent people to like grocery or to gas stations that were filling up their pictures of ladies like filling up plastic bags with gas in the trunk of their car. Like idiotic.
Can you eat gas?
Things,
Can you eat gas? No. Can you do you need gas to live, like water or electricity or heat? No, you don't.
No.
And also, how many people are actually going to work right now? Because everyone's talking about how no one's working. Everyone's working from home. So it's like the toilet paper thing. Like, why were people flipping out about toilet paper, right? When they couldn't eat it. Canned food's sitting there on the shelf, but toilet paper's gone. Not a shortage of canned food, a shortage of toilet paper. You got to ask yourself, I think they're playing games with us. I think they're putting stuff on the television to mess with us. I think they're trying to see how much control they can use these other methods of controlling people, whether it's what is it, skull to the God technology, right?
Yeah.
Or whether it's subliminal messaging or mockingbird, coding that they put, like
100%.
where they flash it. I don't know. All I know is I think that they're testing to see how to mess with us. And I think that also makes it very convenient for them to go after Assange and to somehow find the person, whoever it was that knew whatever they knew, that hacked this network, that everyone got their money. Well, they got half their money back. The government kept half as a tax, obviously. But I think it's all connected. And I think that we won't know what's really going on, maybe even ever. But I think Brexit was about getting the central banks out. And I think that they brought in people to keep that from happening. I know that Gaddafi got knifed in his butthole.
Yes,
okay?
He did.
I know. Yeah. They came, they saw, he got knifed in the butthole.
Yep.
Not cool. Mm-hmm. And Assange is only alive. Like, dude, Epstein is dead, right? Assange is still alive. In an Ecuadorian embassy? Like, dude.
Now he's in Belmont.
Anyone could have gotten him. Anyone could have gotten to him then, though. Think about that.
Yeah.
Why was he kept alive?
Yeah. That's the thing. He was, they knew where he was. He was there for years. They finally, the World Bank paid Ecuador $1 billion and they gave him to him. Then he winds up in Belmarsh. Once again, they know where he is. They can get him at any time, and yet they haven't, which leads me to believe that he is more valuable to them alive than dead. And that because they clearly, there's no moral hurdle to this. They have no problem whacking people and making, even if it's totally obvious that they whack.
Well, there are no doorknobs in Ecuadorian assemblies. Apparently.
There's no doorknobs.
Any more doorknobs. The Ecuadorian assembly, you're my brain. The Ecuadorian embassy needs to get on top of their doorknob situation. If there were more doorknobs, this would not have been a problem. I mean, I personally going to write a strongly worded letter, but like that, at the end of the day, Edward Snowden can interview with Joe Rogan.
Yep.
And talk, do whatever, right? Nothing happens to Edward Snowden, right?
Yeah.
Nothing. Then you've got, CNN found Osama bin Laden in a cave and interviewed him. Still Team 6 couldn't find him, but CNN could, right? And then he's Popsicle Pete and they threw him off the back of a boat after they kept him frozen and forgotten and so on, right?
Right.
Assange, his interviews, the way he's allowed to interview is weird. The way they treated him is weird. The situation of the cat's weird. The situation with the book when he left the jail is weird. Yeah. The book he was carrying. The fact that he was thrown into that prison is one of the worst prisons in the world. You know that, right? It's got some of the worst.
Yeah.
The worst of the worst. Like, why are you putting him there? They're trying to get him to give up the code so they can eliminate Bitcoin so we can go back to our happy little central banking system.
Wow.
He's threatening the world's financial safety. And unlike Gaddafi, they can't just knife him in the butthole because everyone's watching.
Yeah.
They can't just throw a coup at the Ecuadorian embassy and everyone gets hung from doorknobs. They can't do that. So for some reason, they're keeping him alive. That's why he used Bitcoin blockchain as proof of life. He's telling us stuff that he can't tell us.
It's a crazy ass world that we live in. But luckily, we have Frantic Missy here to explain to us how it all fits together. Tell these fine listeners where they can find your work, how they can support you, and where you're doing your thing.
I do a lot of stuff on stereo.com under the name Frantic Missy. If you guys haven't signed up for that, it's interesting. You're going to see some weird stuff, or you're going to see some great stuff. And I do a show every Monday night on there at about 9, 10 o'clock, depending on, the timing that someone's available. And I interview someone different every Monday. Lawyers, I've interviewed a doctor. I've interviewed someone that does actually clips. Soundwave Productions, the guy that does clips for Sam's Tinfoil Hat show. Randy, he's awesome. I also have my Twitter, which is, always a dumpster fire. But you can contact me there.
Fun. I like your Twitter.
Yeah, my Twitter's it's like my brain. It's a big old mess. I have a YouTube, which also probably needs to have some work done on it. I'm not about promoting myself. I have an IG, also Frantic Missy. You can search all my other podcasts I've done. Shout out to my buddies over at the Big Dumb Pod, like Kyle and Putz, because like if it not been for them, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing right now, because I gotten like really discouraged and like kind of like worn down by life. And I was like, what's the point? And like we talked and like they asked me to come help like do a show with them, and I caught back on fire again, and I've been out there running my mouth ever since.
I just did their show like a week and a half ago.
Aren't they great?
Yeah. Oh, they're the best. Yes.
You have to remind Putz, if you ever talk to Putz, get him to take his shirt off. Because on Kyle's birthday, Putz took his shirt off in front of his mom. It was hilarious. His mom's like, I'm watching this, right? I'm watching this. So I'm like, if we get 20 people in the chat room, Putz will take his shirt off.
Oh, funny.
It's become like an ongoing joke. But yeah, those guys are great. And they're up and coming, and I think they're going to be big. If they don't get cut down, but they won't give up. They're on a new site called float.com. It's inspirational because they refuse to like let censorship like stop them. They're not going to censor themselves. They're not going to quit. I also do the Down the Rabbit Hole Jackass group with Mitch and Tyler and a bunch of other folks. I mean, Dan and Aki and the Big Dumb Guys and my friends Vanessa and Mick from the Patriot Party podcast on Podbean, like, and Janet from Deplorable Nation. Like, all these people would get together and we do a talk on usually in the weekends. I think we're going to do one tomorrow again on the Jackass thing, and that's on Spotify. I'm all over the place. And at the end of the day, it's not really about me. Everyone's like, well, why don't you do more with you? I'm like, because it's not about me. It's about this. It's about telling the truth and like letting people know, like, this is connected to this. And if you didn't know that this was there, you wouldn't know that this is there. And for some reason, God has gifted me with the ability to put pieces together. I mean, I flipped through my notebook and I'm just like, I just saw like 5 other things I can tell you right now that no one else had ever told you, because I was able to put it together. Like the gelatin 9/11 thing, the Madeleine McCann eye blind thing.
Yeah.
That means something spiritually, to be blind in your right eye. It is to help develop a veil. And they're messing with us. Every chance they get, they're messing with us. And there are people out there that are going to tell you the truth, like you and like Sam. And we're all terrified of the chopping block, because it feels like it's coming in. But, I used to be scared of it. Now I just don't care anymore. Like, come get me. Come get me, bro. Come at me.
Well, you are what David Icke would call a dot connector. And I appreciate your amazing work. And I encourage everybody to go and support you wherever they can. And if you like this episode, please take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family to get the word out. Thank you, everybody. We will talk to you soon.